Alright boys, just went through and cleaned out the car a little bit, did a little bit more wiring. I'm gonna go ahead and throw on the front grille area, throw on the headlights, wire in the headlights, wire in the taillights, mount up, mount for my dipstick here, finish some of the wiring from my fans, run a new ground, and probably get everything ready to reflock the dash and throw the dashboard in. And then this car is literally done, it just needs a drive shaft. So today the plan is to get it, like, it already only needs a drive shaft to drive, but I want to get this car where it's done once I put the drive shaft in and I can just instantly drive out and put a couple more days in. So gonna go through, hook all this up, got a few things to do, and also put in my brake light switch and run my brake light switch wiring to make my brake lights work. Not really gonna film much of it because I'm just gonna get to wiring, and we'll see how far we get and I'll update you guys. Let's go, boys. Alright, since I'm not running any of the stock car harness, this is what I had to do. And now I need to take all these connectors that are meant for these headlights, like so. These fancy connectors here. Find out, obviously, which one's ground, which is probably brown. This one's power. Run a ground off the headlights to a ground that I'm making up front. Run power from my switch panel through a relay, through a fuse, to 12 volts, run it to my headlights. Did the same thing for my fans already. Did the same thing for my water temp gauge. Alright boys, we got everything pretty much wired up now. So we got the ground right here. That's all in there. We got the power to my brights, the power to my regular headlights, and then we got it all wire harness wrapped over to here. This is going to be the ground. It's going to connect to this ground right here for these lights with this connector. That way everything disconnects. So this ground will connect here. Now that ground's there for these headlights also, and then this ground goes to the ground that I already have in my bay for my fan, and then it's gonna splice into that one and go straight to the actual ground itself. So that ground's over there. Then I got power to my brights, my headlights running back, which will go through the firewall to my switch panel. So that's pretty much that. So this one's power to my fan, runs down there to my fan. My ground is right there. That ground is teed off. That's where my headlight ground's gonna plug into. Then I'm gonna have it right here, so it's a little sub harness, so I can take off, like, if I ever need to like pull my engine or something like that, I can just disconnect it right here, pull all my wire harness out the front, not have to run it through the firewall and pull it apart and pull it out. So that way you can just disconnect it right there, pull it off, or just from the back of the headlights. But right now I'm cutting these rubber hoses I got, and I'm gluing them down, as you can tell right here on this metal little fin, right where the wire harness runs over the engine bay. So that way it's like that, and it's on rubber, not on metal. So I'm gonna put my little shield right there, block that off, but it was too big for any grommets I had. So I just cut it, and I super glued a hose on here too. So I got this huge thick hose that's protecting all the sharp pieces. I'm gonna put another piece right here, and I have a grommet that will fit this. This is all done. Connectors, this is for fan, these are for the headlights, highs and lows. Quick 12 hours on the car real quick. Probably maybe an hour off in between there when I had to run to O'Reilly's, but got so much wiring done. Taillights are wired, headlights are wired, everything's cleaned up and ran where it should be now instead of just all over the place. That was a mess. I even got my firewall plate in there and grommeted. I had to super glue it and show you guys with the hoses. This one has a good amount of space, so it has a little free room for it so it doesn't rub. Everything is hooked up in the bay now, everything's wired. Headlights work, I'll show you guys that right now. All the wiring's cleaned up and ran. I ran it through here under the front, and it's underneath all the way, so it's hidden and tucked. Pops back out right there to the other headlight. My fan wiring's down here. This is kind of ugly. I could just tape over this wire, make it black so it's kind of hidden, but not too worried about it. It's in there. Everything has a little bit of playroom. Just, you know, you don't want them too tight where it doesn't have any playroom. Then I need to order these like sticky zip tie things and just be able to pin this right. That's all the wiring tucked right now. ECU's made. I made a bracket to mount the ECU. Got all those relays and everything up there. It's looking pretty sick. We got fan, Wow, it's actually so much quieter when I already put this on now. That's actually nuts. Headlights. Boom. Oh yeah, my right one's not plugged in, I think. I gotta fix the wiring on that. And then I just gotta run my actual brake light switch to my pedal, and I got those wires kind of pre-ran. That's what this tee-off is right there. So then I can just plug it right in, heat shrink it, and then goes to there. Time to unload BMW. Just got back from a drive shaft shop. About to try pulling this thing in the garage. We'll see what happens. In the car right now. You see it. What really sucks, I don't even know if I've said it in a video, but I have to pull the motor again in this car because there's something in my bell housing. I think a flywheel bolt. I don't know how. Maybe it snapped. Maybe it wasn't tightened all the way. I don't know. I Loctite them and torqued them to spec, so this kind of scares me on what the noise is. But something is bouncing around in my bell housing. Maybe something broke off my slave cylinder. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Or maybe it was like something on the adapter plate, like a dwell pin that like fell through or something that was on the other side. I don't know. But there's something that obviously, if my car's tilted forward, rolls forward in the bell housing, hits my flywheel, and you can hear it ping around, and then it'll stop and find its groove, shake the car or lift it up a little bit, it falls back, hits the flywheel again, bounces around in the bell housing. Can't pull just the trans because the way that the bolts are now with that adapter for my JZ to BMW trans adapter, the bolts are way too high up on the firewall, so I literally have to either cut out my whole firewall and unbolt it, or obviously just pull the motor and redo all that again. So, gotta pull the motor again. But about to unload this thing, and we have a drive shaft now, boys. Alright, sadly, we're pulling the BMW motor. I'll show you guys more once we get this thing on jack stands, but I need to rearrange the garage because I want to pull this motor and not have the problem where I always have to like open the garage, get the parts, do this, move everything around, like running parts all over. So I'm going to put the bug in the backyard for right now, and I can roll it in when I'm done, but put the BMW here, put it on jack stands, and then I'll have all this space in the front to put the motor on the ground. It's going to be quick, done, get it over with, and because I want to drive this car. You guys saw I just was driving it in the last clip. Let me rearrange everything right now, and yeah. Alright, we got it rearranged now. Car's up on jack stands, and we're about to strip this thing down in the... That's where this thing went, bro. No wonder he's tripping. Ryuk! He knows where he was looking for it. What's that? I'm gonna drain the coolant right now, pull the radiator out, pull everything out, and just pull this motor, and let's see if we can't crack that thing open and check it out today. I'm also assuming I have a slight sounding of a misfire, and I did before because my coil pack thing was backwards. I think I fouled the plugs, and that's why I have a little bit of a misfire right now. New drive shaft in there. I see I got a slip yoke now right there, and I had to run a Drift HQ adapter to run like the U-joint style drive shaft. One piece drive shaft now, and yeah. I'm too lazy to even fully take it out, so I'm leaving it like that. Just got all the trans mount bolts undone. They had to bang out my trans tunnel to fit the one piece. So now I got a bunch of paint missing where they put the air hammer to it. But just did everything on the motor. Everything's disconnected from the motor except my clutch slave, which I'll do once I pull the motor a little bit more forward so I can reach it a little bit easier, because it's at like a weird angle in the trans tunnel as well. And I got a new harmonic balancer on the way because I'm going with the super dampener up front now, because realizing how big my flywheel and my adapter is on my Collins adapter kit for my trans adapter to a ZF trans. It puts so much weight on the rear of my crank. I need something to balance it in the front. It's lightweight aluminum pulley, although it's underdrive and I wanted that. It's just a little sketch when you think about it. So it's a lot of weight on the back side of my crank. Let's see if we can't just get this motor pulled right now. Line it all up, chain it all up, and let's see if we can't get it loose. I forgot, it's a pain in the ass to get that motor mount bolt. I need to get those real quick too. Alright, about to pull the trans off. I got a couple more bolts to do on the bottom, but this is why I kind of feel like something fell inside there. Look, with the starter right here, you can literally put, like, anything could, if it fell, like, on top of here, it could have rolled into here. There's a possibility. So, maybe it's something from there. I did have a slave cylinder that exploded when I put in my trans into here one time, so maybe a piece of that popped off into there, because the whole slave, like, kind of popped out. So, you know, it could be in there. We'll find out right now. Oh. What is that? What is that? That. Uh-oh. Well, boys, what did we find here? What we found was a piece of the slave cylinder that I had in here that previously exploded. There's one point right when I put the motor in the car that I went to bleed the clutch and I stepped on it and it exploded and all the clutch fluid just came dripping out the bottom of my bell housing. And I pulled the clutch slave out and put a new one in. I guess the whole entire piston shot out of it. Clutch slave piston looks like. Tell me that's not exact. Clutch slave piston. It was in there bouncing around and it was hitting my flywheel. Look at these marks. And it was making the craziest noise because it would, like, I would hear it bounce around and get like stuck up in like a corner, and then if it rolled on a hill it'd roll back down here, hit something, like boom, maybe hit like the starter, or maybe it'd bounce off right here probably. Yeah, it was. Look at that. That explains all these little scratches. Wow. Alright, just threw the trans back on, took that piece out, so it's time to throw it back together, boys. Alright, literally everything is done on the 1J, ready to go. It's all wired in. The only thing I'm waiting on right now is my oil cooler setup, and I have to put a pancake oil cooler adapter on there, so I want to do it right now while it's kind of clear right here. So I have the power steering pump off and all that, so I'm leaving all this off. I also have a crank pulley on the way, a super dampener to put on here. One thing is I have to start sealing off the firewall, so I have a plate that already goes here. I needed something for here, and I went ahead and bought this like ABS plastic sheet, and I just cut this piece out, drilled holes in it, and now I'm about to put some riv nuts right here into the car, riv nut it, and then I'll be able to put this right over it, and then I'm gonna drill a hole and put a little rubber grommet I have to run my wire harness through there. Alright, got the little grommet in there. Now I can put my wires through there. Got it riv nutted in, so now I get to use my fancy little purple bolts and bolt this puppy in there. It should look pretty clean. It's been a long time since we've seen the bumper on the car, and I'm ready to throw this bumper on. So the only thing I really need to do on the rear end right now is get something to latch my trunk down, because when I hit the corner I can no longer use the latch, so it's not even in there no more. So I need to get like how my bumper mount is or something right here to hold my trunk down. Got as far as I could up here, but also look at my brand new ATI super dampener right now, because I have a big flywheel adapter on the back of my crank, and it kind of scared me when I realized that I'd had just like a CNC'd aluminum crank pulley with super lightweight, and all that off balance with all the weight on the rear of the crank and nothing on the front just kind of scared me a little bit. So I was like, you know what, gotta cash out, get a super dampener. And now it's a lot bigger, so I need a different belt, because this wasn't 20% underdrive pulley. This is, I believe, 15% bigger than stock. Just put the bumper on, put the BMW on the ground. This thing's looking so good right now as it sits. 600 foot-pounds torqued on. I don't have a strong enough impact, so I had to go buy this Cobalt one, 1,200 foot-pounds of torque, and it was a big boy. So, woo, big boy. This thing is massive. Whoa. Here's the ultimate test. Did we just spend 250 bucks for no reason? Or is this thing gonna be able to crack this bolt off? There she goes. The craziest part is how easy this one came off, and it was kind of wiggly. This one was so hard to get on right now. Like, I just had to actually kind of put some grease on it. We're gonna do another messy project today, and we're gonna reflock my dash. So what you do is you buy this kit right here. What we got here is a bag full of flock, a flocker tube. Oh, it came with a brush, never mind. Glue. I just took a vacuum with the brush tip and went through and cleaned it all up. But look how like thin it is in some areas. Like, you can see the dash. So gonna go ahead and coat it in glue, and then just go ham with the flock. I'm extremely impressed with how good the flocking came out on this dash right now. It actually feels like there's suede. I don't know how good you can see this on my camera. It doesn't focus too well. It's so bad right now. It just looks 100 times better than it did, and I'm so stoked. Here's what we're looking like with the cluster in. That's what we're looking like, full cluster, dude. It looks so good. Well, boys, it's time to do something I've been waiting to do for a long, long time, and waiting to show you guys. Man, look at these Johnnies on here right now, bro. The big old Porsche brakes behind them. Man, look at those Johnnies. Dude, just look at those, man. It's gonna change the whole look of the car. I can't wait to see all four on. Well, boys. We got some rubber on the chrome Johnnies. Sheesh.
Immediately.
Oh yeah, some burnt boys. Get these burnt boys out of there. Let's see. Right. This is the best looking car I've ever seen right now, dude. This thing looks so good. The roof wing, the tail wing, the lip. Dude, this is my dream car right now. We got tight fitment right here, but I plan on kind of MacGyvering this fender to pop out a little bit more. Stuff something in there, and dude, it's gonna be close, boys. Look at that. So upset, boys. Cracked my windshield so bad. Goes all the way, it's hard to see. I want to see it from like the inside. You see that? Literally had my hood up with the garage, and I opened the garage when my hood was up on jack stands. Hood crushed into the windshield. Brand new windshield. Alright, here we got a full oil cooler kit. oil cooler, OEM oil filter, the sandwich plate that has the locations where my sensors for my oil gauges, AN line, AN fittings, steel braided line, and then the actual filter, I guess you'd call it, oil housing, pancake plate, or whatever it's called. But here's how we're looking right now. We got the oil filter straight to the block because I couldn't even keep the OEM 1J oil cooler where it's off the coolant lines for the back of the motor. I had to loop the back of the motor and get rid of that oil cooler because it didn't fit with my motor mount. As you can tell, my motor mount's like right there where it like would curve this way, and it had like a locking position, so you couldn't really rotate it, and had to ditch that. I ran it like this for a little bit, and then I just realized it was a little too risky not having that oil cooler at all, so went with this. And yeah, here we go, boys. All right, got all the oil cooler, the pancake adapter, I guess like the AN, the thermostat you'd say. Got all that wired in, got it grounded, got it wired back to my gauges for the power for that switch. This one's all plugged in, ready to go. Everything's tightened on there. Right now, all I need to do is figure out where I'm mounting my oil cooler, so then I can cut a steel braided line and mount in my AN lines and do all that and press those fittings and do all that fun stuff. So figure out where I am mounting this bad boy, and to do that I gotta throw on my apron thing and probably the radiator and the intercooler to make sure everything clears. So little bracket all grinded up, hole drilled. Oh, we need that a little bigger. Riv nut, something like this with a riv nut in it. Gonna be welded right there, so it's a little raw still. Put one of these fancy bolts in it, make it look legit. Had to completely redo the mount that I made the first time because I had to flip the oil cooler because it made more sense to have the oil kind of pour in and fill up in here rather than the other way where it constantly drain the oil cooler out, if that makes sense. So flipped it around, re-welded the bracket, that's on there. Now I have this L bracket that goes to this riv nut here for the bottom support. I got my lines ran with all my fittings on right now. Alright boys, I threw the full front end together. Kind of want to turn the motor over and see if we can't make sure everything is hooked up. Alright boys, I'm going to fill it with coolant. I just got fucked, boys. Jeez. That ain't good, boys. I do, honestly. But to power wash this whole engine bay out now because, man, it is just covered in oil on everything over here, bro. God damn it, man. It literally went everywhere. Just got it pushed home. Luckily some dude was nice enough to help me push this thing home. Well, boys, time for the last month of this video to be concluded with the E36 running. As you can barely hear at the end of that last clip I just showed of it running, you hear it almost like misfiring a little bit. The car was running too rich, turned back the fuel pressure a little bit, got it leaned out a little bit more, and it was running 100 times better. I ordered an AFR gauge, which I have now, and I have to wire that in and put that in just to make sure everything's safe because I leaned it out a little bit before we do any damage to the motor. So gonna wire that in before I really put any more driving in on the car. But I felt the need to conclude this video because I keep getting asked for an update or a video on the E36 because I've been showing it on my Instagram, but I haven't posted anything on YouTube yet. So here this is, a long video, a full redo pretty much on the E36. We pulled the motor, we put everything back in. We got the dash all flocked and all pretty in here now. I got my gauges. I have to put the other gauge in here now, so that's gonna fill that. I got the other delete panel in over there. We got this back in here, all riveted in. That's cleaned that up now. It's sealed off. I have floor plates to put in, which I'm going to be showing you guys in the next video. And I want to get door cards soon, too, and block this off, make it look like a real car. I put some foam in here just for everyone getting in because it is a pain in the ass getting in here. And these keep scratching. Car is the best looking it's ever looked right now. Got the tail light wired in up here, so I have a tail light up there. If you made it this far, thank you. Leave a thumbs up. I'm glad you guys enjoy the E36 content because I sure do love this car. Like, subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next one.